Smoke on the Ridge, Drums in the Dark, A Letter from Home Tucked into a Worn Coat as Cannons Wake the Dawn. Today we're counting down top 20 Civil War movies that turn history into living drama. From stone-solid classics to underseen gems and bold modern epics. Expect charges that shake the ground, duels of will across map-strewn tables, and quiet acts of courage that matter as much as any volley. No big spoilers, just the moments that make each film unforgettable and why it earns a place on this list. Stick with me to the end, because the top 3 might surprise even longtime fans. If you're enjoying the march, tap like, subscribe for more rankings and deep dives, and if you spot the hype button, hit it. It really helps. Ready to shoulder the pack and step onto the field? Let's begin. 20th place. Dances with Wolves, 1990. Kevin Costner's sweeping frontier epic follows a weary Union officer who heads west and discovers a new sense of purpose among the plains people he meets. What makes it stand out is the scale and sincerity, vast prairies, patient storytelling, and a respectful effort to let Lakota voices be heard, with dialogue translated and coached by educators from Syntegleska University. The film became a cultural phenomenon, winning 7 Oscars including Best Picture and Best Director, a rare triumph for a Western. It was shot largely in South Dakota, and the thunderous buffalo hunt used a real herd at the Triple U Buffalo Ranch, giving the sequence a visceral edge. Audiences responded in a big way, driving worldwide grosses past $424 million. 19th place. Gods and Generals, 2003. Ron Maxwell's prequel to Gettysburg aims for a grand, old-school sweep as it tracks the opening years of the war through the rise of the legendary Stonewall Jackson. The film leans into camp life, prayer tents, and battlefield set pieces at Manassas, Fredericksburg, and Chancellorsville, trying to show how ordinary soldiers and famous commanders were shaped by duty and faith. It runs nearly 4 hours in theaters, with an even longer director's cut, and was largely bankrolled by Ted Turner, whose passion for Civil War history is all over the production. Love it or not, the scale is undeniable, from the uniforms to the volleys of cannon smoke, and the aim is immersion in a tumultuous time. 18th place. The Keeping Room, 2014. This tense home-front thriller strips the war of banners and bugles and puts danger at a farmhouse door. With the men gone and Union soldiers closing in, 3 women, 2 sisters, and a formerly enslaved woman must rely on grit, quick thinking, and a battered shotgun to survive. Director Daniel Barber keeps the focus tight and the suspense steady, while Britt Marling and Haley Steinfeld chart a believable shift from fear to resolve. Sam Worthington's presence adds an unpredictable threat that makes every creak of the floorboards matter. First shown at Toronto's festival and released by Drafthouse Films, it blends Western mood with survival drama and quietly asks who gets to be a hero when society falls apart. 17th place. Friendly Persuasion, 1956. William Wyler tells a moving story about a Quaker family in Indiana whose peaceful beliefs are tested as the war creeps toward their farm. Gary Cooper plays a gentle patriarch who would rather trade at the market than trade gunfire, and the film finds its power in small moments. Music on the porch, neighbors arguing about conscience, a son wrestling with what courage looks like. The approach is warm, humane, and quietly devastating, which is why the movie became both a crowd pleaser and a critical favorite. It won the top prize at Cannes and earned multiple Oscar nominations, a rare feat for such a reflective Civil War drama. Sometimes the hardest battles happen far from the front lines. 16th place. Free State of Jones, 2016. Matthew McConaughey anchors this insurgent tale of Newton Knight, a Mississippi farmer who breaks with the Confederacy and helps organize a ragtag alliance of deserters, poor farmers, and formerly enslaved people. Gary Ross stages swamp hideouts, courthouse showdowns, and makeshift encampments with a you-are-there texture, while the story stretches past Appomattox to show how the fight over freedom continued. The film draws on serious history, including books by Victoria Bynum and by Sally Jenkins and John Stauffer, and it does not shy away from hard truths about race and power during Reconstruction. It opened in summer 2016 to mixed reviews, but sparked plenty of discussion about what resistance really costs and who benefits when ordinary people push back. 15th place. Andersonville, 1996. John Frankenheimer's harrowing drama drops you inside the most notorious Confederate prison, where thousands of Union soldiers fight to keep their humanity as disease, hunger, and brutality close in. Shot with stark detail and an eye for the camp's mud, smoke, and cramped stockade, it feels less like a TV movie and more like a survival epic about conscience under pressure. The story draws on real accounts from prisoners, which helps the daily rituals and small acts of defiance feel painfully true. The production debuted on TNT and earned industry recognition, including Emmy honors for its craftsmanship, a sign of how seriously it tackled this chapter of the war. It is grim, but it refuses to look away. 14th place. The Birth of a Nation, 1915. This silent-era landmark is both a breakthrough in film technique and a deeply racist work that glorified the Ku Klux Klan and spread hateful myths. Its sweeping battlefield scenes, cross-cutting, and ambitious scale helped shape the language of movies, but its message caused outrage, protests, and harm that still echoes. The film's impact was vast, from huge box office to an infamous White House screening during the Woodrow Wilson administration, which amplified its visibility and controversy. Watching it today means reckoning with how powerful images can be used to mislead as well as to inspire. It stands as a cautionary tale about art, propaganda, and the responsibility that comes with telling history on a grand canvas. 13th place. The Beguiled, 1971. Set near the end of the Civil War, this slow-burn Southern Gothic traps a wounded Union corporal inside an isolated girls' school in the Deep South. He is played by Clint Eastwood, not as the unstoppable gunman audiences expected, but as a weak, charming presence who is dangerous in quieter ways. As the women take him in, nurse him, and hide him from Confederate patrols, the house turns tense and slippery. Jealousy, desire, power, and fear twist loyalties until no one trusts anyone. Director Don Siegel favors candlelight, whispers, and suspicion over battlefield spectacle, building a hot, uneasy mood that still unsettles. The film disappointed at the box office in 1971, yet its reputation has grown, and it now stands among the most daring and disturbing films of Eastwood's early career. 12th place. The Horse Soldiers, 1959. John Ford turns a real Union cavalry raid into a robust adventure about duty, friction, and the cost of pushing deep behind enemy lines. John Wayne and William Holden play leaders who disagree as often as they draw swords, and that clash gives the march its spark. Ford's love of American landscape is everywhere, from muddy crossings to pine forests, and the action has the practical punch of mid-century stunt work. The production itself carried a somber note when veteran stuntman Fred Kennedy died after a fall, a loss that changed Ford's planned ending and haunted him afterward. The film stands as a rousing ride with a bittersweet shadow, born of history on-screen and off. 11th place. Shenandoah, 1965. James Stewart anchors a moving story about an independent Virginia farmer who wants no part of the war but cannot escape its reach. Director Andrew McLaglen keeps the focus on family, faith, and the uneasy choices people face when conflict knocks at the door. The film's power comes from its humane tone and clear voice against senseless loss, which resonated with audiences during the changing mood of the 1960s. It became a solid hit and remains one of Stewart's most affecting later roles, thanks to its mix of warmth, sorrow, and stubborn hope. O Shenandoah threads through the film like a memory, reminding us of what people try to hold on to when the world splits apart. 10th place. Lincoln, 2012. Steven Spielberg turns a tense slice of history into a gripping drama about leadership under pressure. Daniel Day-Lewis disappears into Abraham Lincoln as he fights to secure the 13th Amendment, while Tony Kushner's script draws on Doris Kearns Goodwin's team of rivals to show messy, human politics at work. The film trusts quiet rooms more than cannons, letting strategy, compromise, and moral resolve carry the suspense. It was showered with acclaim and 12 Oscar nominations, with Day-Lewis winning Best Actor, and the film also taking Production Design, cementing its place among the decade's standout historical dramas. If you want a story about how change actually happens, with all the doubt and courage that requires, this is it. 9th place. The Outlaw Josey Wales, 1976. Clint Eastwood's frontier saga follows a grief-scarred farmer who refuses to surrender after the war and becomes the protector of a found family on the run. The movie blends pursuit, campfire humor, and bursts of brutal action into a story about choosing who you'll be when the shooting stops. It was a hit in its day and later earned a place in the U.S. National Film Registry, recognized as culturally and historically significant. That endurance makes sense. The film is tough but generous, suspicious of easy heroes, and honest about the damage war leaves behind. As a post-war Western, it helped define Eastwood's style for a new era, while honoring classic tradition. 8th place. Ride with the Devil, 1999. Ang Lee dives into the guerrilla war along the Kansas-Missouri border, where loyalties shift and violence arrives without warning. The story follows young riders thrown together by grief and pride, including a former slave who fights beside them, forcing everyone to question what side even means. Lee favors night raids, muddy fields, and wary glances over grand speeches, building a mood that feels intimate and volatile. The movie struggled at the box office, but critics praised its textured craft, and a later Criterion director's cut restored Lee's full vision. Today, it plays like a buried ember from the late 90s, glowing with moral ambiguity and lived in period detail. 7th place. Cold Mountain, 2003. A wounded soldier heads home through a country coming apart, while the woman he loves fights to keep a life alive. Anthony Minghella pairs stark winter marches with hearthside survival, letting simple acts of kindness and cruelty shape the journey. Jude Law and Nicole Kidman carry the longing, and Renee Zellweger brings crackling energy to a role that won her the Oscar for supporting actress. The production chased authentic 19th-century landscapes to Romania, building towns and battlefields from the ground up to avoid modern intrusions. The result is an earthy, emotional epic that lingers on faces, songs, and small mercies as much as it does on smoke and steel. 6th place. The Red Badge of Courage, 1951. John Huston's stark adaptation of Stephen Crane's novel looks war in the eye from a young soldier's point of view, trading spectacle for anxiety and mud-cold clarity. Audie Murphy, a real-life decorated veteran, gives the story a haunted steadiness, While Houston's off-kilter frames make battlefields feel uncertain and strange, the studio famously slashed the film to about an hour and added narration after poor previews, a cut that frustrated Houston and helped turn the movie into a legend of what might have been. Even so, what remains is bracing, a spare, modern-feeling combat tale about fear, shame, and the fragile return of courage. It's a lean classic born from a bruising fight in the editing room. 5th place. The General, 1926. Buster Keaton turns a true Civil War locomotive chase into one of cinema's purest action comedies, staging jaw-dropping gags on real moving trains and treating the rails like a tightrope. The story is simple and propulsive, but the execution is fearless, from roof runs to a full bridge collapse performed with a real locomotive. Audiences were cool to it at first, yet history changed its fate. Today, it's hailed as a masterpiece, honored by the Library of Congress in the very first class of the National Film Registry and celebrated on AFI lists. If you want to see practical stunt work at its most daring, this is the gold standard, powered by Keaton's stone-faced nerve and an engineer's love of machines. 4th place. The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, 1966. Sergio Leone drops 3 outlaws into the chaos of the American Civil War and turns their hunt for buried gold into a grand, ironic dance of greed and survival. The war is more than backdrop. Blasted towns, a grim prison camp, and a doomed bridge battle show how senseless destruction swallows everyone. Clint Eastwood, Lee Van Cleef, and Eli Wallach circle one another like predators, while Ennio Morricone's score turns whistles and bells into pure adrenaline. The production's ambition shows on screen, from Spanish locations doubling for the West to a bridge explosion so big they had to shoot it twice. It is the rare epic that's both muscular and mournful, funny and tragic, and endlessly rewatchable. 3rd place. Gone with the Wind, 1939. Hollywood's most famous Southern saga remains a towering feat of old studio spectacle, from its saturated technicolor to its sweeping depictions of a society collapsing under war. Vivien Leigh and Clark Gable electrify the screen, but the milestone that still echoes is Hattie McDaniel's supporting actor win, the first Academy Award ever earned by a black performer. The film dominated its year, setting records at the Oscars with 10 total awards, 8 of them competitive, and it became the biggest box office hit of its era, a status it still holds when adjusted for inflation. Whatever your view of its romance and mythology, the scale and craft are undeniable, and its cultural impact remains impossible to ignore. 2nd place. Gettysburg, 1993. Ronald F. Maxwell turns Michael Shara's Pulitzer-winning novel into a patient, 254-minute chronicle of the war's decisive battle. The film leans into tactics and character, following officers and volunteers as they weigh orders, terrain, and fear. You feel the scale in the long lines of reenactors, the canvas tents, and the marches across open fields. Yet it never forgets the small choices that decide a day. The project was backed by Ted Turner and released in theaters before its television run, a sign of how seriously the filmmakers treated the material. What emerges is less a conventional war movie than a steady immersion in July 1863, the kind of battlefield study that history fans return to for its care, detail, and quiet conviction. And in 1st place is Glory, 1989. Edward Zwick's stirring drama honors the 54th Massachusetts, one of the first black regiments in the Union Army, and it does so with a mix of quiet dignity and fierce emotion. Matthew Broderick's young commander learns leadership the hard way, but the film's heart is with the soldiers who risk everything to claim their place in the nation's future. Denzel Washington's searing performance earned him an Academy Award, and the film won 3 Oscars overall, recognition that matched its moral weight. Drawing on historical sources about the regiment and Robert Gould Shaw, it brings history closer, without turning it into a lecture, reminding viewers that courage can change what a country believes about itself. That's our journey through the top 20 best Civil War movies of all time. If you enjoyed it, please give the video a thumbs up, subscribe to TOPLIST, and if you see the height button on your screen, hit it to boost the video. I'd love to hear from you too. Drop a comment with your favorites, the films we missed, and what list you want next. Want to watch the movies from today's countdown? You'll find links to physical and digital copies in the video description, ready to add to your shelf or your queue. If you'd like to support the channel, consider joining. Members get early access to new videos, discounts on our merchandise, and other goodies we're cooking up. While you're here, check out the merch store for shirts, hoodies, and more made for movie fans. Thanks for watching and for being part of this community. Until next time, keep the reels rolling, keep the stories alive, and we'll see you in the next countdown.